Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the wrestling podcast. That's right, we've got pay-per-view incoming, and you know the Getting Over crew ain't going to let you down. We're covering who won last time. We're covering special guest predictions. And we're covering the upcoming pay-per-view, Money in the Bank, one of Stu's favourites. If you're checking us out on YouTube, wave at the screen, say hi whilst clicking that lovely subscribe button. If you're already subscribing, you can comment and share and things like that. If you just like listening to us all, that's perfectly fine, but do subscribe, because it's a big help to us. So yeah, let's get cracking. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the Getting Over podcast.
Hello, yes, Danhausen here. You're listening to... Oh, still forgot this. Danhausen, very nice, very evil, very famous. Almost forgot the most important part of this message to you. Anyways, you're listening to the Getting Over podcast on CookieCast. Isn't that nice? Ooh, cookies. Anyways, it would be very nice and very evil if you would like, share, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and YouTube Hausen. Love that, Danhausen.
This meeting is being recorded.
Thank you, lady. Stu?
Hello, hello. If you're viewing on YouTube, you've probably worked out by now that the usual gang are back together, so that can possibly only mean one of two things. But this time around, it's getting over.
Three.
Oh, three. Okay, yeah, whatever. But it's getting over. Getting over 35. I will eventually get these words out. So yeah, hot start and all that. And as always, as we've pointed out, we are joined by the usual suspects, Mr. Paul Williams.
Hello.
Mr. Matthew Moore. And the head honcho himself, the Vince McMahon of CookieCast, if you like, Mr. Andy Cook.
I don't know what I did to you in a previous life. Wow. Hi.
You sacked him, clearly.
Hi.
I was going to say, clearly.
His contract was coming to an end and we parted on amicable terms, I'll have you know.
But did you wish him well in his future endeavours? Because if not, that's where you dropped the ball.
I held the door for AEW open for him as he walked through it.
Before we get too far in, there is a bit of sad news to report this time around. And it's saddened to hear of the recent passing of Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, aged 71. Mr. Wonderful played a huge part in laying the foundations for WWE as we know it by main eventing WrestleMania 1 and tag teaming with Rowdy Roddy Piper to take on Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. It was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2005 and he overcame cancer back in 2011. So this guy is sort of, you know, been there, done that, bought it all, seen it all, done it all, whatever. He's just like, basically, if he's a bit before your time, as he's likely to be probably in this day and age, go back and watch some of the matches because some of them, I think, certainly like still will still hold up and just he's one of them ones that he'll be forever talked about, but kind of I think not really in the main event kind of circle, always in a supporting role and. I wouldn't really want somebody like that to be forgotten. And you know, for the fact he's in the Hall of Fame and stuff, hopefully he won't be. But unfortunately, recently, his son had posted some pictures and videos showing his father in ill health. But yeah, thoughts really with the Orndorff family and just kind of wanted to give him a mention just to say thanks for everything at the beginning of the podcast. So a bit of a sad start to it this time around. So yeah. But after that, we will start where we always do, with the predictions title. Some of the regular listeners will know that we had Mr. Max Hepworth on last time out. That's clearly a replica, Andy, because the real one is just behind me, as we all know. But yeah, Mr. Max Hepworth was on last time as our guest predictor. I'm pleased to say that he has returned for this episode and has submitted some picks ahead of time. He has also promised to join us live at some point. So now I've mentioned that on air, and Max has now had three mentions in the same episode. Never mind in the entirety of the podcast.
Legally
it is now legally binding. So we will hold you to that, Max. With him returning as guest predictor, does that give any indication that he was successful in taking down any of the regulars with the predictions?
Probably.
And last time out, we had the second ever clean sweep of predictions. Because I got 6 out of 6. Just thought I might mention that now. But am I going to do it again? Would I do it again? Or would I effectively do what is known in the business as doing a Sasha Banks and binning the title off after less than one defence, really? So yeah. I mean, let's not mess around. Let's get straight to the scores. Unfortunately for Max, he's got the mention first, but also alongside Mr. Matthew Moore in joint last position with a huge 3 out of 5. So not too shabby.
Jesus. And 3 out of 5 gets you last place?
Yeah, and Paul, you'll be really happy to know that 4 out of 5 got you second. I'm a little disappointed that 4 out of 5 also got me joint second. Which means that, Mr. Cook couldn't let me just have it and join him in the clean sweep circle. He has to go and stick his nose out in front once again. 5 out of 5. Sat up there on his own at the top of the clean sweep leaderboard now. Congratulations, Mr. Cook. Football might not have come on, but that title certainly has for you. So there you go.
He's stayed there for the past year as well.
I don't want to be the guy that says, let's go back to last episode, shall we, boys, and just go through some of those predictions. Because apparently I needed, my head seen to when I was picking all those predictions. Those clean sweep predictions.
Well, it happened, and who are we now, mere mortals, to tell you that a prediction will be wrong? Apparently not. So yeah. So we'll move into the news.
Sorry.
I mean, if you want to go on YouTube,
It's a bit easier when there's only 5 to predict.
Well,
Can't attain that victory.
Sorry, Matt. I didn't quite catch that. I was too busy rubbing the gold.
Rubbing the what, sir?
The gold.
It's very self-congratulatory, isn't it?
Well, you'll be pleased to know that not only will Money in the Bank make it much more difficult this time, in theory, but there's also a 6th match. So you'll have that extra burden of pressure on the shoulders this time to retain that title. Moving into the news, since the last podcast, there are quite a few talking points that have happened. But I'm going to start with a return and news of a departure. Seeing as we've talked about departures in the news section seemingly for the last 3 podcasts now, but it is, you'll see. So, Zelina Vega returns to WWE, whilst her husband, the newly minted Malachi Black, debuts on AEW. Having been released by WWE in November 2020, and then taking a very public stance against WWE's policy on superstars using websites like Twitch and YouTube and so forth, you'd probably have thought that Zelina Vega had burnt as many bridges as she'd ever crossed with WWE. Combine that with the recent release of her husband, the artist now formerly known as Aleister Black, all signs really for me seem to point towards her never coming back. I thought, was it done? I expected AEW or...
Particularly when, what's his face, Andrade turned up at AEW as well, because at that point, obviously their kind of partnership in NXT and then on the WWE roster worked really well. So you kind of think, well, when you kind of start joining up the dots, it kind of points towards her going there, kind of thing. And I think someone put a meme or a gif on there when it was like, when you realise that Vicky Guerrero's going to continue to be your manager, and it's like
Not only that, but then the announcement of the Ring of Honor tournament for the women's title, and then the NWA women's only pay-per-view coming up. You'd have thought there would have been plenty of options, but after she was released, the tweet wasn't a thank you WWE for all the opportunities or whatever it was. It was I support unionisation was the tweet she put out. So absolute shots fired. But then on the 2nd of July episode of SmackDown, Sonya Deville storms her way down to the ring in her official capacity and announces Zelina Vega as the next competitor in the women's Money in the Bank match. And since the return, that aforementioned tweet has actually now been deleted, which is probably the least shocking part of this tale. But speaking of Aleister Black / Tommy End / now Malachi Black, made his debut in AEW after being released from WWE around 30 days previous. Regular listeners that have chimed in, with us on the 90-day no-compete clause, because we've seen it about 48 times in the last 3 podcasts, probably be wondering how he turned up so quickly. I would guess Matt especially might be all over this, because I think this has been mentioned in the group chat. Do you want to explain the little shenanigans, Mr. Moore?
Well, apparently when he got promoted from so NXT, apparently if you're in NXT, well, maybe they've changed it now, but previously if you're in NXT, your contract was a 30-day release clause, and then when you got promoted to the main roster, it was made a 90-day. Failed to do that with old Ali Noir, as he was, as you'd say, and released him, and then obviously someone must have gone, oh crap. But to be fair, he did quite a good job as well, because he did a lot of interviews post-release and mentioned, I'm looking for for events around this date. Obviously the 90 days, kind of kept on saying, I'll be looking to see what's going on in Japan in 90 days kind of thing, and then obviously released a video on his Instagram, which is dark, and then rocked up at AEW to deal out a couple of black masses to Arm Anderson and Cody.
Good old Corey. So a bit of a strange situation, that, because you would have thought the amount of releases that have happened over the last 3 months, they'd have absolutely had that down, but apparently not. And it feels, for the fact that they've even retained the surname as part of the new character name moving forward, is not probably just a middle finger, but you would expect a middle finger on both hands cleanly up towards WWE at this point, by what's happened. But we'll see. Just a little note to mention continuity as well, and the fact that he left seemingly with an eye injury, recovering from said eye injury, and still turns up in AEW with the makeup as if it's all bruised and everything. So he's probably done more for continuity from WWE storylines than WWE have done for the last 18 months. So I thought that was quite a nice little touch there. We started the podcast with some sad news, and I mean, this isn't quite as sad, but it's sad news now for one particular member of the Getting Over team, Paul. If you could just try and hold back the tears for the next section of news, that would be incredible. But it has been reported that last week, whilst training at the Performance Centre, that Bayley has torn an ACL on her left leg and will now be out for around 9 months. Bayley's been quite a major part, really, of WWE in the pandemic era, and it's kind of heartbreaking that the week before they're due back in front of live fans, she's now going to have to sit on the sidelines for all that time. And obviously, we wish Bayley well. Paul probably wishes her well even more, so we can start predicting her every single time, because, as we all know, there is absolutely no way that that injury will keep her down for that period of time, really. But this
is the thing, isn't it? When she comes back, there's absolutely no way Bayley won't be winning something as soon as she comes back.
Well, if Sky Bet are listening, if you could send me the odds right now on Bayley winning the Women's Royal Rumble in 2022, I would take that right now.
In
I'd say
other
that's
news,
sketchy on the time scale because she'd have to be fit in 6 months for an injury that takes 9.
in other
Yeah,
news, look out for Bailey's new book about her latest album that she's releasing with her band that are going on tour.
I mean,
Funny how this never comes up in like the NFL podcast. That when Saquon Barkley did it, like tore his ACL. That wait for his new rap album to come out or something like that.
Don't ever mention that man's name in this house again.
I mean, if she's all right to kind of like not sit around and not do too much, she can quite happily come back and host Ding Dong Hello. That'll be.
I think they will try and keep her on, like in like a interview capacity, so that they can keep the sort of the heel persona going. Because like that'll be the worst thing if she does go away and then come back. She'll get a babyface response, won't she? So.
I don't think they'll be worried about that. I think she'll be right either way. I think she's definitely staked her claim enough over the last sort of 18 months that regardless of if she's on for a bit, off for a bit, whatever, when she comes back, I think she's probably now. This is probably quite a bold claim, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I think she's probably a bigger deal to WWE than Becky Lynch is, personally.
Is or was at that time?
Both.
No, I still think if you look at like the merch that Becky moved at the time, she was arguably like the number one merch seller, and I don't think Bayley was anywhere close to being that.
But from like just the TV aspect and like
as a character.
I think people.
She was over as that sort of dick that was easy to hate.
I think people were starting to get bored of the man thing. I think that the break, and obviously, like perfect reason to have a break. Not being horrible about that in any way, shape, or form. But I think the break for her, career-wise, also came at the right time. The fact that when she does come back. She can essentially fall back into that without kind of really like any change to that character whatsoever, and any need for change to that character, and people will be okay for 2 or 3 months whilst they then work out what direction she's going to go in. But
I'd agree on that.
And it wouldn't have worked with no crowd either, because obviously the man thing relied on the crowd kind of thing, whereas the no crowd fully did her a favour, to be fair. But yeah, they've done really well with Bayley, because if you look at the kind of in the past, you just think she would have just stayed as a face for so long. They would have kind of John Cena'd her for kind of thing and sold loads of kind of pictures of those things that you put outside car sales lots and all that
waving
kind of thing.
Inflatable arm flailing too.
Yeah. Whereas actually they kind of took the risk and turned a kind of. And it's that kind of snidey, dickish heel as opposed to being like just a nasty kind of thing. It's that kind of like, dead sneaky and stuff like that, it works really well.
I think a lot of people were probably questioning whether she had it in her, to be honest with you. Like whether she had the ability to actually portray that character. Because she was almost in that Kofi Kingston, like Ricky Steamboat career babyface like sort of mode, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of people were sort of questioning whether she could pull it off, and she absolutely did. She absolutely nailed it. So fair play to her, because she was definitely one of, if not the most compelling character. And even though it took him a while to get there, the storyline with Sasha was arguably the best storyline of the last 12 months.
Moving on from Bayley, but sticking on the SmackDown side of things, have we all seen that Jimmy Uso was arrested yet again for driving under the influence?
Yes.
Is this his third one?
No, well, it's the second time in 2 years it's happened. Arrested for driving under the influence. Is arrested on the 5th of July after posting a blood to alcohol score of over 0.2. The legal limit in Florida is 0.08. so he was basically over double the legal limit. But unfortunately, as well as a byproduct of the situation, Jimmy's wife, which is Raw superstar Naomi, has ended up deleting her Twitter account after not only receiving abuse for this, saying it was basically her fault, which, you know, it's his decision, but also then turning into like this ugly bloody racist abuse nonsense again. So I don't understand why that happened, other than the fact that they're married. I certainly don't understand why it then turned to anything of a racial connotation. Like how?
Because people are fucking assholes at the end of the day.
I mean, I'm not sure I can sum it up any better than that, Paul. To be honest, I think you've absolutely nailed it. If you ever feel yourself reaching for your phone to start typing anything of that nature, just take the phone and smash it into your face and do everybody a favour. Words of advice. But yeah, so Jimmy had only really recently returned to SmackDown as well after a bit of a stint out with injury. So it's a bit I'm a bit unsure now. Like, is he too far into the main event picture with this whole Roman Reigns, like Jimmy and Jay, you know, the cousins, the bloodline, all that kind of stuff? Or is it going to then eventually sort of cast a bit of a shadow over him? Will they essentially bin him off at the first opportunity? Because there's definitely been people that have been let go for less. But do we think that the fact that he's squarely in the picture is kind of going to save him on this occasion?
I don't know whether they'll bin him off. I think he'll go away again for a bit. Like we said, you know, it's like this whole family thing. I think you kind of we've kind of said it before, they're not afraid in the WWE to reference real life stuff and use it to kind of make TV. So I fully expect them to be like, yeah, what you did the other week, that's brought dishonour on the family. Off you go, beat down. He's got this, that, and the other. He's stuck in hospital for however long. We won't see him again while he goes to rehab or something like that. You know, and fingers crossed he gets the help he needs, really, because it must be kind of, you know, it's difficult. It's difficult when you know, and I think it's always this kind of thing. Oh, wrestlers, they're not athletes, and you're like, well, they are. You know, they're probably damn sight more talented than some athletes that get kind of a lot of credit. So it must be difficult when you're injured and you can't do the thing that you want to do, and you kind of get back into it and stuff like that. And you know, you don't know what they're taking outside. You know, drinking. You know, obviously they're drinking, but you don't know what they're taking outside of wrestling to help deal with the pain. You know, there's a lot of, you know, you hear a lot of stuff from old ex-wrestlers that, you know, they were addicted to this, they were addicted to the other, addicted to, you know, loads of different pain killing stuff. Obviously, like I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say probably not, but I can't imagine that cannabis is legal in Florida. But obviously, it's getting to become more legal in more states in America, and it's kind of recognised as something that is more able to help people with pain and stuff like that. But, you know, I think you just need some proper help. And I think, again, you know, the WWE doesn't shoots itself in the foot a lot kind of thing, because I don't think it does always help its talent to recover from these things. And I know they're grown people and I know they can make their own decisions, but if you get into a spiral and you're expected to, you know, and they're back out on the road again, they go to what deals with it instantly as opposed to what deals with it long term. And they must have, you know, doing the things that they do, they must have little niggles and, you know, here and there and things that kind of thing. And you're starting to hear more wrestlers talk nowadays about not wanting to wrestle till they're 50 and 60, not wanting to be the Undertaker or Ric Flair or Sting. They want to effectively be like sportsmen and kind of finish at 40 and go and have a career past that. And, you know, unfortunately, if you kind of get caught with DUIs and all that kind of thing, I was going to say it kind of wrecks your career, but it's probably going to wreck your career after as opposed to currently. But then
just
the way they're getting rid of people at the moment, any excuse would do, I think.
It's a bit of a balanced one for me, because without meaning to be awful, because the guy's obviously sorted himself out to a degree as well. But if Jeff Hardy's got a job, like anybody that does that shit can do it. But my worry isn't necessarily for him, because I think that with his wife and if they really get the machine behind him and use him as a bit of an example in a way of this is what can happen and this is what we'll do for you, and get him the help that he needs. But in the short term, like you say, when they're going out on the road, if they don't step in and help him soon, he's going to be required to be in a car more often, and it's not the people that. It's not him necessarily that I'd be more worried about. It's the people around him, or the people that he might be driving the car towards in a horrible situation. The help needs to sort of reinforce that it's not just him that this is affecting, and hopefully that'll do that, and it'll get he'll get himself sorted out, because regardless of he needs to get his personal stuff sorted out. It's like he's coming back off after that injury and all the rest of it. They've legitimately got a chance as well to go down as one of the best tag teams in the modern era. It's getting that realization through, and get yourself sorted out personally, and then look at the legacy you can leave behind. Is the legacy that you're going to be remembered as, that guy who got pissed and then got in the car? Or is it going to be the guy that went out and won the tag team titles 7 times, 8 times, 9 times with his brother, and then moved on to? Because especially after the singles run that Jay's had, you're not telling me that they're not going to be looking at least an Intercontinental title run for one or both of them, or further in the future. Because the Bloodline story as well, surely that lends quite well to one of them in years to come being at the level of more title matches. Yes, obviously Jay's already had a title match against Roman himself in Hell in a Cell last year, but it's it's what you want to do. It's like, and they've both got kids and all the rest of it. And anyway, we could talk about that bit for hours, but hopefully you say that. Hopefully he gets the help he needs and gets himself straight in time.
Twice in 2 years is not learning your fucking lesson, though. Just to kind of, it's that's the kind of thing that kind of is aggravating. You kind of, obviously Jeff Hardy spiraled and kind of got caught in quick succession, wasn't it? And then it was a little bit of a while, a good few years, and then he got kind of done again. But twice in 2 years, and that's 2 years. We don't know how many months that is passing in there, kind of thing. But
I think the disturbing thing is that these are the twice that he's been caught. It makes me worry about how many times it's happened in between.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. It got covered on another podcast that I listened to where they said it's like it's more a question of how many times has he done it where he's not been caught.
Yeah,
it's now getting to the point where does he need his license taken off him? I know that's not gonna deter him in the grand scheme of things, but at least it'll mean that if he does get popped again, then he's either going to get prison sentence or a huge fine and stuff like that. It needs to sort of. It's worrying. It's very worrying.
I assume that the license issue may still come to pass on the basis that he was bailed the morning after he was arrested. So you would have thought that they'll still have proceedings to go through, but
yeah,
we'll see. But yeah, that's kind of the main talking points that we've had since last time out. If there's anything you think that we've missed, obviously get in touch. Hit us up on the old Twitter and the YouTubes and all the rest of that good stuff, and cookiecast.com. And if we've missed anything that's particularly important, then we can always go through it next time around. But for now, gentlemen, we shall move on to the predictions. So here we are again, Money in the Bank 2021. As much as the last few podcasts may have felt a bit like we were a bit annoyed about stuff and maybe possibly a little bit derogatory about the product, I feel a little bit more excited this time And I don't know if it's because it's Money in the Bank and it's one of my favourite pay-per-views outside of the big four, or because it's the return of live fans, and that surely has got to make a huge difference. I'm not sure, but for the first time since WrestleMania 37, we have a pay-per-view with fans in attendance, but it's in Fort Worth, Texas this coming Sunday. And as we mentioned earlier, so far we've got 6 confirmed matches on the card. And as always, these are correct at time of recording, based on the WWE.com listings. Now, can Andy get a clean sweep this time around? Can he get a hat-trick of clean sweeps, all told? Can I maybe join him on too? Probably not, let's be honest. Or, seeing as it's Money in the Bank, will somebody else climb the cookie cast ladder to grab that gold? Let's get into it. Right, so we will start with the Raw Tag Team title match, which is current champions AJ Styles and Omos versus the Viking Raiders. As we will get to shortly, the Viking Raiders recently cost AJ Styles a chance to enter in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and this clearly grabbed the attention of the phenomenal one and his giant accomplice Omos. They now defend their titles against Eric and Ivar this Sunday. Will AJ Styles earn a measure of revenge, do we think? Or will the tag titles join the raid? Now, as mentioned, we have had some guest predictions submitted ahead of time from Mr. Max Epworth, so thank you again, Max. And seeing as he is the guest, I will start with Max's prediction. Straight in there, Max has gone for title retention, so AJ and Omos to come out on top. He said to me that he feels like that they will drop the titles, just not a Money in the Bank. He feels like it's more of a SummerSlam thing, and it'll then turn into AJ Styles versus Omos sort of program, possibly heading towards Survivor Series. Now, I'll be honest, he's going to probably cringe when he hears me say this. I hadn't even thought about that. I had never once thought about AJ Styles versus Omos, but instantly the image that comes to my mind is Rey Mysterio versus the Big Show from back in the day, because it is going to be like little and large if that happens. I mean, I'm not saying it would be horrendous. I just think, for me personally, AJ and Omos need to stay as a team for a little bit longer. I think Omos is a big guy, but he's also seemingly very green in the matches that he's had so far. Whether that's the tag matches or his first ever singles match on Raw this past week. I get the feeling he's a stereotypical Vince McMahon kind of guy, and the fact that he's just a huge dude. Not sure about the quality of the in-ring stuff. So that might lead you to think that I'm also going to agree with Max in the sense of that I've said that this team should stay together. I think this team will stay together, but I think they will drop the titles now. So Max has gone for AJ and Omos. I have gone for the Viking Raiders. What do you guys think?
Title retention, please.
Okay.
Yeah, same for me, please.
If this wants to play ball, there we go. And same for you, Mr. Cook.
Yes, please.
That is you two guys locked in the book. Matt.
Same for me as well.
Oh,
yeah,
man. Well, that's a point for me then.
I think the main problem is the fact that they've since they've won them, have they defended them yet?
And that's another reason to get rid of them, or to drop the belts from them. For me,
just a really strange one. It's like, I'm sure they always back in the day they used to bring out the if the storyline dictated it, they had the mandatory 30-day defence clause that they used to bring out and stuff like that, didn't they? And that just seems to have disappeared in the last however many years. Certainly since a certain Mr. Ponytail decided to just take random months off and stuff like that.
I'm always here.
Andy's been on the podcast every time.
I'm always here. I don't appreciate. I feel victimised. I feel triggered.
Yeah, well, just get over it.
On that
Sam.
note, on that note,
HR's doing overtime there, aren't they?
I think it's that thing where AJ's pretty much bulletproof, so
It was mean to me. It was mean to me.
Wouldn't be a problem. But and obviously, if they do end up losing, it's not going to be Omos that takes the pin, is it? So, yeah, to me, it just don't make any sense to have them lose just yet.
so here's a question for our resident carb-based vegetable expert, seeing as Paul loves his hot potato so much. Is it still classed as hot potato if they've not defended it very much, but then lose it after 2 months? Is it the defences that make it the hot potato, or is it the amount of time?
It's the changes.
So it's a time-based issue, then, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
We'll discuss a true hot potato when I'm ready to grumble in a bit.
Ooh, okay.
Grumbles.
Here you go. There's a cliffhanger right there.
I've got 2 actually this month. I'm grumbled for a while. I have 2.
Well, I have nothing to grumble about this month because I'm so excited about Money in the Bank. So you can have my 30 seconds. So okay, so we have got 4-1 for AJ and Omos to retain. So next on the card, I've got the Raw Women's Title match of Rhea Ripley going in as champion versus. Anybody want to guess? Anybody seen a pay-per-view in the last 3 months? That's right, everyone. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair again. The feud that will seemingly not go away. It's like the cockroaches.
It just won't die, will it?
No. But, I mean, surely this time it has to. Surely.
I don't know. I don't get it.
I mean,
I don't.
for this...
It's the same principle. Like, they're a bit sort of screwed either way here, I think, because if they beat Charlotte, then it's kind of like, oh well, she just definitely can't beat Rhea. But if they beat Rhea, it's like, oh well, she's just shit then, isn't she? So
this is absolutely the if anybody says in terms of like explaining like wrestling vernacular, like what is booking yourself into a corner, give them this. Because like Paul's just said, they can't really if Rhea wins, yeah, that like Charlotte's really just come back and there's nothing really more for her to do in the title picture.
Yeah, she'd have to have like 6 months out of it, or at least.
If Charlotte wins, everyone's like, oh god, Charlotte Flair, another title reign, that goes that way. They can't have it as a draw because last time out Rhea got intentionally disqualified for the same effect. So like, I really, really don't know what the like.
It's the living embodiment of the. It's the wrestling living embodiment of the Spider-Man gif at the moment. Just like 2 fucking the same kind of pointed at each other. It's just fucking stupid. They should have done. It's the kind of thing of right. Okay, we've got these 2 kind of, for want of a better phrase, monsters in terms of the female kind of division. They are taller, they're more athletic than most of them, and they can't have either of them lose. So where do they go? You know, it's up. Yeah, they should have just kind of let it go. And you know, if you want this match, fine. I can understand why you want the match, but if you want Charlotte Flair to win, but you don't want her to win on a smaller pay-per-view, then don't have the fucking match on those pay-per-views. You know, just to have it at SummerSlam, because that's what we know is going to happen at the end of the day.
Well, this, as it is Money in the Bank, obviously there is a women's Money in the Bank match, so the winner of the match may also be kind of swayed. They might depend. It basically depends where it sits on the card. If this match comes after the women's Money in the Bank match, there is also then that in play as well. So maybe that's their get out of jail free card. Maybe they have a cash in on the night. Who knows? Personally, I've not opted for that on the basis that it's their first event back with a crowd. Like, the crowds in theory should be absolutely white hot anyway, and they didn't get to play around, particularly with the women's Money in the Bank case last year because of the whole pregnancy angle. So
well, if you think about it, they haven't done it for 2 years really, because they had Asuka last year, and then the year before that was Bailey, wasn't it?
And then she
cashed it in on the night.
Yeah.
So they've basically not had a women's Money in the Bank holder for 2 years.
But then, was the year before Alexa Bliss when she also did the same thing then? So it
was Carmella, wasn't Carmella the year before?
So Carmella was the first year.
Then it was Bliss.
Then it was Alexa Bliss.
Carmella didn't, did she? Because she cashed it in on SmackDown after the Iconics debut.
She held it for nearly a year, didn't she?
Yeah. So yeah, I think then that if they did it again, it would be like the fourth event in a row where they've not been able to do anything with it. So I think they'll hang on to it this time around.
They have to.
Anyway, so it's quite literally a coin toss, this one, for me. So I've gone Rhea Ripley. That's it. There's no reason behind it, just because I want Rhea Ripley to win more than Charlotte Flair. So, Paul, is that a hand of agreement, Mr. Williams?
Yes, please.
Matt?
This is where it's going to be kind of wrong because I'm agreeing with you. I think it's going to be Rhea Ripley, but I think it's going to be like a disqualification kind of thing. I think that Charlotte's just going to lose her shit and just kind of go that kind of route. I think
they can't do it 2 in a row, surely.
Well, it's obviously the other person doing it this time.
Mm.
And I think it won't be as kind of heely, shitty kind of thing. I think it'll just be like kind of that kind of thing.
So, Mr. Cook?
Sorry, did someone say playing for points? Yeah, just stick me down for Charlotte, will you?
Well, it is indeed playing for points, because Max has also picked Rhea Ripley. So, whereas I was 4-1 against last time, you are 4-1 against this time. So at least we'll be 1-1 after the first 2 matches on our predictions.
Absolutely. Neck and neck.
Yeah. Max has said that the fact that the crowds are back actually leans him more towards picking Charlotte Flair because she seems to be like the guaranteed draw. But he said he's massively torn. So I think he's had the old coin flip out as well, and he's nailed his flag to Rhea Ripley on this one. So we shall move on. The third match on my listing is the WWE title match between Bobby Lashley, as Seth will call him, the champion, versus Kofi Kingston. You might have noticed that I just said WWE title match and didn't say Drew McIntyre. So after about 18 months or so, Drew was finally ousted from the title picture when Bobby Lashley beat him at Hell in a Cell. The night after that title defence, Lashley was then confronted by New Day. Kofi laid down the challenge to a title match, which Lashley accepted on one basis, that he could fight Xavier Woods inside Hell in a Cell for the second night in a. He wanted a Hell in a Cell match for the second night in a row.
Well, it changes careers.
However, though, you will also be aware that this is the first time ever somebody has competed in a Hell in a Cell match 2 nights running. So, they could wheel that one out at least. Yeah, a little bit baffling, but yeah, the defeat that night for Xavier Woods actually bars him from ringside for the title match at Money in the Bank. So there is that element to it. But despite being barred at Money in the Bank, Xavier Woods actually picked up a clean pinfall win over the WWE champion on Raw this past week, completely derailing any momentum that Lashley had going into the title defence. And also, I'm not really sure about the reason as to why it happened. It seems a bit. It's cool, and I'd like to see Xavier Woods have a title match on the basis that he's been there a long time as well. I just don't know if it's entirely believable. I mean, it'd be a cool shock win if that ever happened, as it was in a non-title element. But it just seems a bit of an odd move. But yeah, are we going to get the continuation of the Almighty era, or just for Andy, will a New Day dawn of Money in the Bank? What are we thinking, gents?
I'll tell you what we're thinking, because you know how much I love the New Day. Kofi. Kofi's going to take the title. I'm saying it here and now. He will have a little bit of help from one Drew McIntyre. Easiest way to get back in the title picture is to help somebody he knows he can beat, win, and then immediately issue a challenge.
Well, he might also have a case in his hand by that point as well. So there is that point.
You're still in my predictions there, Stu.
So okay, so you definitely just do not adjust your sets, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Cook has picked Kofi Kingston to win the WWE title match. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Paul? I mean, you might be in shock. I'm glad you sat down after Andy's prediction, but...
I mean, it's one of those ones, like, you know, they always say, don't they? Like, you remember where you were when historical moments happened.
Lock it down.
Even though I did see something on the Twitter about how I think it was they were posting advertisements for a live event in Denver or somewhere close, and it was or somewhere similar to Denver, and it was an advertisement for a WWE Championship match between Dolph Ziggler and Kofi Kingston. But I'm pretty sure that was from 2 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, it was. That's just people shit staring on the internet. I mean, who'd have thought people did that on the internet?
I mean, it's also a bollock because isn't Dolph Ziggler on SmackDown?
Also correct.
So, but yeah, same answer that I've given for every pay-per-view since Lashley took the Bobley took the title. It kills him as a character to take it off him this soon. So thanks for coming, Kof, but no title switch for you, boy.
Max has agreed. He's also said that it will be Lashley, as the ponytailed Lesnar will be back in time for SummerSlam to take the title off him there, which then potentially sets up champion versus champion at Survivor Series down the line as Heyman's Beast versus Heyman's Chief, which could be interesting. Kind of like that idea. And then which side will he choose? So Max has not only given us the prediction there, but he's also playing the long game straight away.
Yeah, he's gone into Booker mode.
So that's where Max has gone. I don't think that's. I would not be disappointed if that happened. So I can't disagree with that, and I will not disagree with the prediction. I have also picked good old Bob Lee. Matt, that leaves you to round us out.
Yeah, Bobley as well.
Lean Bobley sweep.
Not
Is
quite.
that my new handle?
Not quite, because now if he is playing for points, if it does work that way, Andy could be the only person that...
Andrew will feel foolish when his love for the New Day comes through.
Sorry, did you use my full name there, Stu? Andy Clean Sweep Cook. I didn't hear you.
You mean Andy Clean Sweep pay-per-view predictions champion Cook? Is
That's it. Yeah.
Sorry. I called you the Vince McMahon of the podcast earlier on.
I still haven't got over that.
And as well, did you manage to drop in? There was obviously if he does get another clean sweep, obviously it'd be the first time in podcast predictions history that would add 3 clean sweeps. Just so you can say whatever it was is the first time ever.
And as the Vince McMahon of the podcast, I have got a massive tent going on right now. At the sheer mention of first time ever.
Right, so we'll move away from that then into the other title match. But yeah, Roman Reigns defends the Universal Championship against Edge. Edge made a surprise return about 3 weeks ago now on SmackDown and destroyed not only Jimmy Uso, but the Universal Champion himself. Edge didn't ever get his one-on-one match that he earned from winning the Rumble, so he's back now, staking his claim. In the week since his return, Edge has constantly had the upper hand over Roman and his cousins, including a little bit of help from the Mysterios this past week on SmackDown. There's no tag title been announced as yet between the Usos and the Mysterios, but you kind of get the feeling that that's where it's headed, so don't be surprised if that's another match that's either added to the pay-per-view this weekend or even shows up on SmackDown on Friday before we get there. But in the meantime, the head of the table is going to have his hands full with the Rated R Hall of Famer. So will Edge complete his journey of redemption back to the gold? Or does Roman's reign continue? Where are we going with this one, gents?
Reigns.
Roman Reigns.
I can do my best to build this up all day. Everybody's just going to go Reigns, aren't they, all the way along the line?
I mean, if you want, I'll pick Edge.
Oh no, don't you worry, Paul. I've got that covered.
But
Seriously?
I'll have Edge to win by disqualification.
Wow.
In fact, actually, yeah, stick me down for that.
Okay. Well, I'm absolutely not doing that. So, I've gone for Roman Reigns. I've said it on 4 podcasts maybe now. You know where this is headed. It's going to be WrestleMania next year with Rock with the win. Yeah, it's the only way it's headed. Only way it's headed.
I think if you breathe in heavily enough,
you can smell it as well. Can you smell it?
That isn't what you might think it is. It is just the sheer level of disappointment I will have when it actually gets confirmed. So yeah, I'm not.
He'll scream like a little child when he's there.
You of all people, Paul, know that is an absolute lie. So anyway,
WrestleMania 30 was lovely when there was like 70,000 people cheering and she was there.
Nah.
No, don't like him.
So I've picked Roman Reigns. It pains me to do it again, but it's happening, and it'll happen every time whilst he's got the title until that match is booked. It might even happen then. Let's be honest. We shall see. So yeah, Max has agreed. He didn't actually give me any kind of spiel on this one, which is why I kind of thought it would just be the same all the way down the line. I thought everybody would kind of be in agreement on the basis that I got a little paragraph about every match, and that's really cool and really appreciated when the predictions are coming in. But this one literally just says Reigns versus Edge, Reigns. That is it. So he's in full. I can't disagree with the lad.
Is it not Reigns in block capitals then just ... to sort of put emphasis on the fact that like nothing else is going to happen?
It's in the book. The prediction is in the book. So Andy, are you going with Edge now that Paul's done that?
No, now Paul's picked up the slack. I can settle nicely into a Roman Reigns victory by knockout.
Okay. Interesting one. Like it. Matt, that leaves you to finish off the predictions for this one.
Oh, sorry, Roman Reigns.
Yeah. In fairness, mate, I already had that in there. I was just checking. Because
you look like my eyes are glazed over and I've fallen asleep because I'm that bored with the storyline. And that would be about right, yeah.
How dare you disrespect the tribal chief? You wait. If you're listening, Roman, we definitely know Matt's address, so we're just saying. Right.
Cracking.
Right. Well, so I guess the main event of the pay-per-view, or main events of the pay-per-view, as it is so named, will be the ladder matches. Whether they're on first or last or whatever, they'll be the bit that everybody's kind of looking for. I'm torn between doing the men's and women's last. On my list, it's the men's last, but I think I'm going to go with that now on the basis that I think that is probably. It's got a bit more predictable. It's a bit more predictable, so we'll go with the men's first, just in a change to the advertising billing. So, unlike the setup for the women's Money in the Bank match, all of the men involved have actually qualified over the recent weeks. From SmackDown, Big E defeated Apollo Crews to earn a spot. Kevin Owens beat Sami Zayn in a hell of a last man standing match. If you've not had a chance to see that, well worth a look back, especially considering it was on weekly television as well. Shinsuke Nakamura took the crown of Baron Corbin, sorry Paul, to become king 2 weeks ago, but then defeated him again the following week to also take his Money in the Bank spot. Rollins defeated Cesaro to take the final entry from the blue brand. Now, if you've been following that along, appreciate there's a lot of results in there, but you'll notice that these are all like rivalries that have been on pay-per-view over the last few months as well. So, in a way, it kind of feels kind of cool that they might have actually used the blow-off to the rivalries to actually, put the qualifying spots through into the Money in the Bank. So, all of those, I would hope, will be put on the back burner for a little while, as the end of the rivalries have been given a little bit more meaning with this qualification. But I guess we'll find out when next week on SmackDown. So yeah, we'll find out about that. But yeah, from Raw, Riddle shocked Drew McIntyre to earn his place. Ricochet defeated AJ Styles with a bit of an assist from the Viking Raiders, as we talked about earlier. Good old Johnny Drip Drip, as he's now christened himself, John Morrison. The worst one is that have you heard all of his new nicknames, by the way, from Raw in the last few weeks? He's now not John Morrison. He's now not just Johnny Drip Drip. He's not using the drip stick to win matches by distraction, but he is also now going to be known as America's Most Wanted. If that doesn't make you cringe every time you hear it, I am not sure what will.
Oh, good lord!
I know. Tell me about it. Especially when the guy saying it on commentary is old enough to be your dad. It feels a bit weird. I don't like it. So yeah, he beat Randy Orton. Sorry, Matt. In a bit of another shock entry, but then this set up a final triple threat match, which is like a final chance where Drew ended up beating AJ Styles and Riddle, who ended up competing on behalf of his fallen RK Bro stablemate at the time, Randy Orton, in the triple threat. Kept up with all that. I mean, if you didn't, we'll just tell you who's in the match again if you like, but whatever. So basically what we're getting to, it's a very long build-up. There's a lot of interwoven stories in the match here. But I guess who's going to get the fairy tale ending of the Money in the Bank contract? So just to go through rapid fire, we have got Drew McIntyre, Riddle, Ricochet, John Morrison, Big E, Shinsuke Nakamura, Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins. Who wants to go first?
I believe I've already given my predictions, Stu.
So you're sticking with the big Scotsman, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay. Unfortunately for you, Max has also picked that, so you're not on your own this time around. I'm just trying to see if he's... Again, no, he's quite confident with this one. It is just Drew Mac. That is it. Bish bash bosh. that is the prediction. So that's two of you for Drew. Matt,
Big E.
Okay.
But I think Randall's going to come in and screw Riddle, and then that'll start a storyline of them two building up to SummerSlam or something like that.
Apparently, for a bit of continuity, because Randy's been off TV for the last couple of weeks, and I've read that he may or may not have been on holiday in Hawaii, and in the note that was handed in by Riddle, that was definitely written by Riddle to say why Randy Orton couldn't compete on Raw that night, the letter started with Aloha for that reason. It was kind of like a bit of an in thing, which I thought was quite funny when I read about that. So Matt has gone for Big E. Paul?
Same, my friend. I think I even called this a couple of months ago when we did the WrestleMania podcast, or possibly even the Royal Rumble one. For me, if they don't pull the trigger on him this year, they never will.
Okay.
So,
well, for my prediction, appreciate that this is a little more of a visual aid. So if you are listening along, get yourself over to YouTube and do all the usual subscribing and sharing and liking. But I just need to reach just up there, So yeah, so there's a bit of a
You
visual
won Money in
aid.
the Bank.
Who do I think is going to win Money in the Bank? Well,
No, you've won it.
Yeah, I'm going to say, are you picking yourself?
I've won it.
just a dirty rumour. So if I just reach into the case,
Some booyos.
what do I have there? So yeah, you might have guessed it. My prediction is an agreement with Matt and with Paul. I'm picking Big E to win. It's about damn time, people. I have read all sorts of conspiracy theories in the past week about Kofi's going to win the title, and then Big E's going to win, and then Big E will cash in on him, and it'll be the end of the New Day, and all the rest of it. Really? Can anybody see the New Day ending anytime soon? Ever? Ever, ever? There's also talk of... Really? Okay, alright. Can anybody apart from Andy? Andy, this is like what we think will happen, not what you really want.
There's a difference between can you see it and is it the one thing you've wanted more than anything else in the world?
Honestly, my letter to Father Christmas every year. Dear Father Christmas, the only thing I want for Christmas this year is the end of the New Day. Lots of love, Andy Cook, 41.
Little Andy Cook.
Little Andy Cook, 41.
7.5 years old.
41 years old.
Okay, so we might as a team be left a little embarrassed on that one, on the basis that there's 8 competitors, and collectively between the 5 of us we've picked 2 different people. But
I just think when you look at the rest of them, it's going to be obviously Ricochet and Johnny Moist have been doing spots all over the shop for the past couple of weeks, so that's just going to be ladders for extra kind of. I was going to say something. No, I'm not going to say it. Some moist spots all over the place. Obviously, Zayn and Owens will kind of carry on their kind of when kind of people laugh about the "Fight Forever" chant. That they are the living embodiment of that chant. And then we've got Shinsuke, and then obviously Shinsuke and Riddle. I think there'll be some outside interference with them. I think Randall will turn up in a grass skirt and RKO poor Riddle, and then that'll be the end of RK Bro. And obviously Baron Corbin will set about. King McGring.
This is the one match though for me where like Money in the Bank match that there's been, and I said this to you guys when we've spoken about this off air. Like, it's the first time there's ever been a men's Money in the Bank ladder match, and I genuinely do not care who wins in a way. Like, I think Big E will win, but I'd be quite happy with any of them. And if anybody that we haven't picked was going to get an honourable mention as somebody that I'd want to win, would definitely be Kevin Owens.
It's that thing that I mean, with the exception of maybe Morrison, there's an argument you can build for every single one of them winning it. Like for Ricochet, it could be that, like, other than the title match he had at whatever the Saudi show was that he had against Lesnar, he's never really sort of been in that top level bracket, and he's arguably the sort of the human highlight reel of the show. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's literally he's pretty much been put in the match for the high spots, hasn't he? So,
yeah.
But yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. I think it's the one where no matter who wins, we don't lose, sort of thing.
Is there who could do the coolest thing with the briefcase now? I think ever since old Broccoli was obviously carrying it around and pretending it was a boom box. It's kind of like, right, who could do something cool with it? Obviously, Big E can do. That they'll do the New Day kind of thing with it. I mean, we haven't kind of talked about Seth Rollins, who's kind of like, I think obviously he can use it to kind of further on his saviour of whichever kind of thing that he's on there and carry it around, and no doubt he'll make some kind of cool changes to it and stuff like that. It's kind of, whoever wins, you're kind of like, yeah, fair enough. It looks, whichever, if they get a title, actual title run out of it. It'd be quite cool.
So that leads us then to the final prediction of the evening, the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. This match has been a bit of a victim of change due to Bayley's injury. Obviously, Bayley has never been listed as been in the match, but she was in a title match with Bianca Belair, had to be removed. Carmella was then put from the Money in the Bank match into the title match, but then the title match itself was moved off the pay-per-view onto SmackDown this coming week when they go back in front of fans. So it's like everything has been up in the air for this one. The competitors currently listed, we only have 7 of 8 participants. So that also opens us up to having an extra bonus point this time for picking who you think the final entrant will be. So the confirmed competitors are Asuka, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, the newly named Nikki Ash, formerly known as Nikki Cross, Liv Morgan, Natalya, and Zelina Vega, as we talked about a little earlier. So it's a bit of a bizarre sort of setup. What are we thinking? Do you reckon that they'll fill the spot on SmackDown this week? Do you reckon that they'll leave it until the night itself? And who do you think that might be? And Andy's chomping at the bit here. Go on, Andy, take it away, man.
My final person to enter this match is also my winner, Becky Lynch. I thank you. No, none of that. No.
You fucking prediction stealer.
No.
Well, I mean, he is, but also I will shout out again to Mr. Max Hepworth, who has also picked Becky Lynch as the winner and the surprise entrant. He was torn. He basically messaged me and said, "I'm picking Becky or Sasha." I was like, no, you know the rules. Pick one, because we're not hedging any bets on this. You need to pick. So he did, and Sasha could be a viable replacement because she's surely about due back as well. I'm glad to see that that's Paul's hand that's been raised in the bottom corner there, Paul. Do you want to carry on from this point?
Well, so I've literally just had to go through the list of SmackDown female superstars and noticed that Sasha Banks was listed on there that I'd completely forgot about. Also, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon listed as being on SmackDown. In fact, yeah, scratch the Sasha Banks. Just put me down for Stephanie McMahon to win the match.
Are you putting Sasha down as the surprise entrant or as entrant and winner?
Well, both, because she's not in it.
No, but are you picking her to win as well?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, as in like she. I think we're at the point now where looking at the list, I couldn't really pick a winner from it. So I was thinking, well, surely it's gonna be the surprise entrant is gonna be the winner.
But then would a surprise winner not be one of the people who have been listed?
Well,
the unfortunate thing is that the WWE go with the kind of 5-year-old mentality of, oh, it's a surprise. Oh, and then the surprise is the surprise as well. Kind of thing. Not like, oh, it's a surprise, and then somebody else won. You're like, oh, no. Yeah, it's that kind of like...
This was covered on one of Jim Cornette's podcasts. He was like he was talking to someone when they were working at ECW, and they tried to get him to go in for a show one month because they said, "Oh, we don't have a surprise for this month." And he was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Well, every month we have like a surprise for the audience." And he goes, "So if you have a surprise every month, is it not just stop being a surprise?"
They're going to want something big, aren't they? For being
You'd imagine so.
in front of the live crowd. And
well, I was going to say, it's a shame they haven't left a spot in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match for CM Punk to make his inevitable return.
Broccoli Rob. Take a bit. No doubt, maybe that'll happen. Can't think someone will get injured on SmackDown this week.
CM Punk will not be coming back, and especially not on this pay-per-view, because he will still be out celebrating the fact that his UFC record has been bettered by the fact that somebody got disqualified for a drug test 3 years ago and has now been scratched from his record.
Him and Conor McGregor are going to fight soon.
Who has the strongest ankles? Anyway, so we had Paul picking Sasha Banks as winner and entrant. Matt, where are you going with this one?
I'm going to go Becky Lynch for both.
Okay.
It's not very exciting, but
okay. I am picking two names, so I'm the only one doing this.
He's gone for a surprise, and he's gone for a different winner, Sly.
I also am going for Becky Lynch as the surprise entrant. I just feel that she's big enough to not need the briefcase to go straight into a title run anyway. It would have a nice sort of symmetry to last year if she did win, having given up the title to Asuka in the case, and that kind of would make a bit of sense. I think that would make more sense if Asuka was still the champion, and obviously she's not. So that was why I stayed away from Becky Lynch winning, but I have picked her as a surprise entrant. My winner is a lady that I mentioned very early on in this podcast, and I'm going to pick Zelina Vega. I think that the briefcase works better with the heel characters, and that does work. I am aware that I picked Big E there for the men's, but I do think that works better all round. And I feel that she's strong enough, not only as a wrestler, but also on the mic to kind of carry it off. And as I kind of alluded to earlier on, they're going to have to do something special with it this year over the course of a period of time, rather than just done and dusted on the night. So I think from the lineup, she is the woman to do it. So I'm going with Zelina Vega.
Toyed with the idea of having her, but then the surprise entrant slot swayed me.
Well, see, never venture away from your first instinct. You'll be regretting that.
Honestly, I thought you were going to say something. You know what they say: never venture away from that slot.
Well, you'll be regretting it when you've got 2 points and I've only got one. Oh no, wait a minute, that's not right. Anyway, so that brings us to the end of the predictions for Money in the Bank 2021. Has anybody got any other business this time out?
Like I say, Matt has at least one 30-second on the clock thing to mention, I believe.
Do we just give him a minute and let him rip?
In fact, should we just not time him and just let him vent for the next however long he wants to go for?
I like that, boss. So what you're saying is we're going to have Ready to Grumble, but for the first time ever, it's not going to have a timer to it.
Iron Man Grumble match. It's an Iron Man Grumble match.
I can give you 30 if you want.
Do it twice over if you've got two. Let's have it. See what he's got.
We can do one and then we can discuss them.
Right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Right. To coin a phrase from Mr. Paul Williams, hot potato in titles, namely the NXT Women's Tag Title. Why the hell did you introduce those tag titles if they're going to become quite possibly the most pointless titles they have? Because they've been handed around to 4, 5 different tag teams now, and they're just passed around week by week. Done.
Can't argue with it.
He's not wrong. I knew that when you mentioned hot potato, that was exactly where you were going. I mean, Paul probably would have more of a viewpoint on it if he actually watched NXT during the week. It didn't happen on a takeover, so he's not going to have seen it. But
I've got Twitter.
I don't know. You could argue that it feels worse this time. I think because of the fact it was the way that lost the titles, in the sense of like they were more of a team than Shotzi and Ember ever were, and even more of a team than Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez really were as well. And like they would have been the ones really to carry that through to make the division something. The fact, I think it not only makes it worse that a proper team has then dropped it so quickly, but it also makes it worse that it's two single stars again that have just been thrown together in Io Shirai and Zoe Stark that have won. Probably just little shout out for Zoe Stark at this point in time, because I think she is fantastic. Like, such a good wrestler. I think her character needs a bit more personality, which I think she'll get from a bit of a partnership with Shirai. Maybe that's the reason they've done it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Zoe Stark. Like her very much.
I just didn't get it. I like they put it on the perfect kind of perfect team to make it relevant, and then for whatever reason, I don't know whether it's to put over Zoe Stark, I don't know whether it's because they feel like Io Shirai does not need the tag titles.
No.
So I can't see, she need, someone, one of the commentators the other day, it's always good to see her with a title, and you're like, she's just good to watch. Doesn't matter what she's doing. She doesn't need a title. She just needs a decent rivalry to be doing. And this, God knows, obviously they're too busy fanning on with this index thing that they seem to think is a thing.
It is a thing. How dare you?
I want to go with Wade Barrett. It's not a thing.
It'll be fun.
I've got bad news. It's not a thing.
I like. With all, one thing that we've not mentioned is the recent spit of call-ups to SmackDown seemingly from the NXT Women's Division. Oh, okay. Give him the 30 seconds.
3, 2, 1, go.
Make your mind up what you're doing with fucking characters, please. Because it's, Dakota Kai returns and it's a big build-up for weeks and weeks. She's charging up, and then she comes in like...
Tegan Knox.
Tegan Knox. Sorry, yeah, Tegan Knox. And then next thing you know, she's on SmackDown with Shotzi Blackheart. Bronson Reed. Take your pick. Seriously, have some fucking foresight. It's insane. Yeah, it's just banana. It's absolute insanity.
I think Tegan Knox was the strangest one, that they've had that battery charging sort of teaser been played for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then it finally gets to the end. She actually costs the way the tag team titles essentially by distraction. And then she did nothing. No fighting, nothing. Didn't get physically involved, stood there, put her arms out, distraction caused, titles done. Nothing else was done. And then she turns up on SmackDown for a match. So there's no, like, if that's her done in NXT, her whole return was putting her arms out.
Yeah, with, taking Shotzi with her to their foreend, the Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart thing.
But yeah, so they wanted a tag team on SmackDown, so they took Shotzi, who was in an established, semi-established team by that point of, having worked with them, the Moon for quite a period of months, and put her with somebody entirely different. Bizarre.
It doesn't really kind of seem to fit with her either. Obviously Bronson Reed is going to turn up some point on the main roster as well, so eventually gets his hands on the North American title. Then goes through some casual racism for a couple of weeks where people are like, well, you're not from North America, so you can't hold the title. genuinely said by two different members of the roster. Obviously, it's scripted. But
we'll just ignore the European Championship from 25 years ago, shall we?
They don't have an Oceania title, so...
the Intercontinental Championship.
Where else? Obviously, I don't know if people have seen NXT this week, but obviously Mandy Rose has turned up on NXT this week.
Have you seen that that's allegedly part of a bit of a swap around though as well? So that they've said that Mandy Rose has gone back to NXT, and again, so you've got the pick of the entire women's division that could be called up to SmackDown, and they've gone with Aaliyah. I'm looking from all of the blank looks on all of your faces that you're all fucking thrilled about that. Fair play to Aaliyah. She's been at the PC since she was 19, so she's.
Well, she was on that breaking ground thing, wasn't she?
Yeah. Back when Baron Corbin still had hair.
What do you mean, Venom?
Well, I say hair. I obviously meant rat's tails, but we'll move
No, it
on.
was the symbiote, wasn't it?
It was just all kinds of wrong.
Someone put a tweet out when his hair was obviously all like wet and slick, and it basically just like looked as if it was stuck to the mat. It looked like one of those symbiotes trying to sort of like stick onto him and like latch on.
Anyway, I think we'll probably end up discussing the call-ups in a bit of depth, because I think they'll probably have a knock-on effect for the next pay-per-view when we're all back together, which in theory should be SummerSlam. So yeah, see how many tag title matches they're all in by SummerSlam. We'll find out.
Surely Andy's already applied for the press pass.
Or if they're still in the WWE, to be fair.
If they're not, then they'd better hope that those contracts haven't been changed over to main roster contracts, haven't they? So.
I think that'll be the one and only time that will ever happen. Everybody's got 90 days now.
Somebody in legal got fired for that, and I'm guessing that they also had a 30-day no-compete because they probably did their own. I'm hoping that Andy has applied for the press passes on the basis that SummerSlam is in Vegas. Just saying.
You know me, boys. I love it in Vegas.
But yeah, unless anybody's got anything else, then that kind of brings us to the end of this episode. Oh no, Paul still has something.
No, as in like that was me saying no, I don't have it.
All right, okay. I thought you were telling me to not bring it to a close, but we shall bring it to a close. All right, well, thank you very much for you guys for joining us as always. Thank you very much to Max for sticking in the guest predictions, and you may see his face at some point on here, as that is now legally binding. But yeah, thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend, enjoy Money in the Bank, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as always. Thanks very much.
The recording.
So there you go. What do you think to that? Another wrestling pay-per-view coming your way very soon. If you're checking us out on YouTube, big thanks. If you're subscribing to us on YouTube, big thanks. Likewise, whether it's SoundCloud, iTunes, or wherever you get your audio podcasts, if you are just listening to us, doesn't stop you being an amazing subscriber. If you could also like, share, comment, that's how this whole thing keeps ticking along. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye.